It was a bright afternoon, but the tranquility of the countryside was interrupted by the sound of an engine sputtering to a stop. Sister Clara and Sister Teresa exchanged concerned looks. Their old car, a vehicle donated to their congregation years ago, had broken down in the middle of nowhere. Far from any town and with no phone signal, the two nuns calmly assessed the situation. "I think it's the battery," said Sister Clara, the younger of the two, as she examined the open hood. "We can't just stay here and wait," replied Sister Teresa, a woman with calm manners and practical experience. "We have supplies to deliver. We need to find a way to reach the orphanage." After gathering the supplies from the trunk and placing them by the roadside, they decided to do the only thing they could, ask for a ride. The nuns stood by their car and held up a hastily made sign that read, "Help, please." It didn't take long before a large truck slowed down and stopped next to them. The driver, a rough-looking man with an unkempt beard and a worn-out shirt, leaned out of the window. "Nuns stranded on the road? That's not something you see every day," he said with a slightly ironic tone. Sister Clara smiled, trying to convey calmness. "Our car gave out on us. We need to deliver these supplies to an orphanage not far from here. Can you give us a ride?" The man hesitated for a moment, observing the scene with some disbelief. Then he nodded. "Hop in. I can't leave you here alone." The nuns climbed into the truck, thanking him warmly. The man, who introduced himself as Enrico, started the engine and continued down the dusty road. During the first few miles, an awkward silence filled the truck. Enrico, used to traveling alone, wasn't sure what to say to two nuns. "Doesn't happen often," giving a ride to nuns, he finally said with a nervous smile. "And we don't often ride in trucks," replied Sister Teresa, breaking the tension with a touch of humor. Little by little, the conversation became more natural. Enrico shared that he had been a truck driver for over 20 years, a job he loved despite its challenges. But recently, things had gotten complicated. Unpaid deliveries, rising fuel costs, and mounting debt with the bank had left him in a tough spot. "If I lose the truck, I lose everything," Enrico confessed, his voice heavy with bitterness. "It's the only way I can support my family. My wife and 2 kids depend on me. But sometimes, it feels like everything is falling apart." The nuns listened intently, exchanging knowing glances. Sister Teresa, with her calm tone, said, "I understand it's hard. But life often surprises us, especially when we least expect it. We must never lose hope." Enrico gave a bitter smile. "That's easy to say. Hope doesn't pay the bills." Despite the driver's skepticism, Sister Clara tried to comfort him. She shared stories of people who had overcome great challenges thanks to the solidarity of their community. "We're not alone in this world," she said. "Sometimes, a small gesture is all it takes to change everything." As the truck continued down the road, Enrico seemed to relax. He wasn't used to talking so openly about his problems, but the two nuns made him feel at ease. Even his tone softened, as though their optimism was beginning to rub off on him. When they reached the fork leading to the orphanage, the nuns asked if he could make a small detour to drop them off. Despite being pressed for time, Enrico agreed. "With everything going on, an hour more or less won't make much of a difference," he said, masking his generosity with a hint of irony. When the truck stopped in front of the orphanage, the children ran toward it, waving enthusiastically. The scene touched Enrico, who hadn't expected such a warm welcome. "Come inside," Sister Clara said. "There's something we'd like to show you." As they entered the orphanage, Enrico had no idea that his small act of kindness would change his life forever. Enrico stepped out of the truck with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The orphanage was a modest building, with walls faded by time and a small yard where the children played with what little they had, old cloth balls, rusty wheelbarrows, and a few wooden sticks. Despite the simplicity of the place, the atmosphere was vibrant, filled with laughter and contagious joy. While the nuns unloaded the supplies with the help of the children, Sister Clara invited him to follow her inside. "There's someone we'd like you to meet," she said with an enigmatic smile. As they entered the main office, Enrico found an elderly man waiting for them, his kind smile and deep eyes radiating warmth. "This is the director of the orphanage, Father Matteo," Sister Clara explained. Father Matteo stood up and warmly shook Enrico's hand. "Sister Clara and Sister Teresa told me about you," he said. "Thank you for helping them deliver these supplies. You know, every small gesture means a lot to us." Enrico scratched the back of his neck, embarrassed. "It was nothing," he replied. "It was kind of on my way." Father Matteo studied him closely, as if he could see into his soul. "Sometimes God places people in our path for a reason. Come with me, there's something I want to show you." The director led him to a room that served as both a storage area and a workshop for the children. On a large wooden table were scattered envelopes, notebooks, and a variety of colorful papers. Enrico examined them carefully, noticing that many of the letters were requests for help addressed to different people. "These are the messages the children and members of our community write to ask for support," Father Matteo explained. "Some reach their destination, others don't. But every now and then, something extraordinary happens, someone responds." Enrico nodded, still unsure of where this was going. Sister Teresa placed a gentle hand on his arm. "This time, you're the person we want to respond to." Enrico looked confused. "I don't understand," he said, glancing at the smiling faces around him. Sister Clara explained, "We heard about your struggles. Father Matteo and we nuns believe that no one should face such challenges alone, especially when it comes to supporting their family. We reached out to everyone we know, and the response was incredible." Father Matteo opened a drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. "We've collected an amount to help you pay off your debts and keep your truck. It's the least we can do for someone who showed us such kindness." Enrico was speechless. He looked at the envelope and then at the faces around him, unable to believe what was happening. "I can't accept this," he stammered. "I haven't done anything to deserve it." "It's not about deserving," Sister Teresa said. "Sometimes, help comes when you least expect it. You helped us without asking for anything in return, and now it's our turn to help you." Enrico slowly opened the envelope and found checks and cash inside, enough to cover most of his debts. It was an amount he never would have imagined, and the thought that it came from the generosity of so many people deeply moved him. "I don't know what to say," he murmured, tears welling up in his eyes. "You don't need to say anything," Father Matteo replied. "But there's one way you can repay this kindness: never give up. Use this opportunity to get back on your feet and continue doing good, just as you did for us today." As he left the room, the children ran up to him, surrounding him with hugs and smiles. One of them handed him a small drawing, a red truck with two nuns sitting next to the driver, surrounded by hearts and flowers. "This is you," said the child, proudly pointing at the picture. Enrico burst out laughing, wiping his tears. "Yes, I think that's me," he replied. When it was time to leave, Enrico felt as though a massive weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He looked at the two nuns waving goodbye at the orphanage's gate, his heart filled with gratitude. "I'll never forget what you've done for me," he said, shaking Sister Clara's and Sister Teresa's hands. "And we won't forget you," Sister Clara replied. "But remember, what you've received isn't just money. It's trust. Use it wisely." With a lighter heart and newfound determination, Enrico started the truck and drove away, knowing that this day had forever changed his life. As the truck roared down the dirt road, Enrico felt different, as though something had ignited inside him. The envelope in his shirt pocket weighed not just because of its material contents but because of the meaning it carried. That collection of money wasn't just financial help, it was a testament of trust, a sign that people believed in him even when his life seemed on the verge of collapse. During the journey back, Enrico's thoughts grew clearer. He couldn't simply accept such generosity and do nothing. He had to find a way to repay what he had received. Not with money, but through actions that could make a difference for someone else. In the days that followed, Enrico paid off the debts that had burdened his truck, ensuring he could keep the one tool that allowed him to support his family. The relief was immense. For the first time in months, he felt free to face the future without the weight of fear. But something had changed within him. Every time he climbed into his truck for a new delivery, he thought of the nuns, the children at the orphanage, and the words Sister Clara had spoken to him as they said goodbye. What you've received isn't just money. It's trust. Use it wisely. Those words took root in his heart, pushing him to find ways to do good, just as he had been taught. One day, while driving down a back road for a delivery, he noticed a small family stranded by the side of the road next to a broken-down car. A woman with 2 children was desperately trying to flag down passing cars, but no one seemed to stop. Without a second thought, Enrico pulled the truck over. He rolled down the window and said with a smile, "Do you need help?" The woman nodded, visibly relieved. "The car broke down, and we have no way to reach the city. I don't know what to do." Enrico invited the family into his truck and drove them to their destination. During the journey, he learned they were heading to a shelter for families in need, where they hoped to find temporary housing. As he dropped them off, he realized that this small act of kindness meant everything to them. From that moment on, Enrico began to see his days differently. Every encounter, every interaction became an opportunity to do good. Sometimes it was small gestures, like helping someone load a heavy package. Other times, it was more significant, like offering rides to people in need or donating part of his earnings to those who were struggling. In the meantime, Enrico returned to the orphanage several times, bringing gifts for the children and helping with building repairs. Each visit was met with warm hugs and laughter, and with every trip, he felt his connection to the place grow stronger. One day, as he unloaded some donated toys into the orphanage's storage room, Sister Teresa approached him with a proud look. "You've come a long way since we first met," she said. Enrico nodded with a genuine smile. "I never imagined that day would be the start of something so big. You gave me much more than I could ever repay." "It's not about repayment," Sister Teresa replied. "It's about continuing to pass on what you've received. Generosity is a circle that never breaks, as long as everyone does their part." Sister Teresa's words stayed with Enrico as he began a new project, creating an association of truck drivers dedicated to helping people in need. With the support of his colleagues and the local community, the association started raising funds and organizing free deliveries for charitable causes. The first shipment was a load of supplies and clothes destined for a small village affected by a flood. Enrico personally drove the truck, feeling that every mile brought him closer not just to the destination but to a new version of himself. Months later, Enrico returned to the orphanage for a special ceremony. Father Matteo, the nuns, and the children had organized an event to thank all the benefactors who had supported the orphanage. During the ceremony, Sister Clara stood up to give a speech. "Today, we celebrate the goodness that exists in people's hearts," she said. "And I want to give a special thanks to Enrico, who has shown that the kindness we receive can become a force that changes the world." Enrico, embarrassed but deeply moved, stood up to speak. "I never would have imagined that the day I saw 2 nuns stranded by the roadside, my life would change forever. But now I understand that every gesture matters, even the smallest ones. And I know I'll never stop looking for ways to do good." The sun was setting as Enrico left the orphanage, his truck loaded with new supplies for another charitable delivery. As he drove along the empty road, he felt a peace he had never experienced before. He had discovered that the true value of life wasn't in material gains but in the ability to make a difference for others. And he knew that, thanks to 2 nuns and an act of mutual kindness, his journey would forever be guided by that realization. Kindness has the power to transform not only the lives of those who receive it but also those who give it. Every act of generosity, big or small, is a seed that can grow and bear unexpected fruit. Be the change you want to see in the world. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Let us know in the comments what you think. Would you have done the same in their place? Would you have had that courage? Share the video with your friends. See you next time.